The morning sun was just rising over Oak Island, casting a soft, golden glow across the excavation site. The air was still, heavy with anticipation. Machines stood silent for a moment, their metal arms glinting in the light. Rick Lagina stood quietly at the edge of the pit, his eyes fixed on the ground. For years he had walked this same soil, hoping that one day it would reveal its deepest secret. But that day felt different. There was something in the air, something that made even the wind feel heavy, like it was carrying the weight of centuries. Rick's team moved carefully, their faces tense, but filled with hope. Dr. Spooner, Emma Culligan, and the rest of the crew had been studying sonar readings for weeks. The data showed something large buried deep beneath the north shaft, a metallic structure, unlike any natural formation. The readings had been so clear, so precise, that Rick decided this was it. This was where they would dig. And now, as the crew prepared to uncover what lay hidden, Rick could feel his heart beating faster. The sound of machinery broke the silence. The excavator's claw dipped into the earth, pulling up heavy chunks of dark, wet soil. Each scoop revealed more of what lay beneath, but still no one spoke. The air around the pit felt charged, as if the island itself was watching them. Every time the machine's bucket hit the ground, a faint metallic echo rang out, like a bell from another world. Rick exchanged glances with Dr. Spooner. Spooner's face was pale, his eyes reflecting both fear and excitement. Then it happened. The machine struck something solid. A dull clang echoed through the site, and everyone froze. Rick took a deep breath and walked closer to the edge of the pit. "Stop," he said quietly. The excavator halted. The silence that followed was deafening. Dust floated in the air, shimmering in the morning light. Slowly, the team began to dig by hand. The soil was thick and black, as if untouched for centuries. And then beneath that heavy layer, a corner of something metallic appeared. Emma was the first to notice. "Sir," she said, her voice trembling, "there's something here." Rick knelt beside her, brushing away the dirt with his gloved hand. As the soil fell away, strange markings began to appear. Symbols etched deep into the metal, faded but still visible. Dr. Spooner's expression hardened. "This isn't modern," he said. "It's ancient." Rick's hand shook slightly as he continued to clear the surface. The object wasn't small. It was a box, large, heavy, and completely sealed. The metal had rusted over the years, but beneath the corrosion, the craftsmanship was clear. Someone had built this with purpose. It wasn't random. It was meant to be hidden and protected. The air seemed to grow colder as they uncovered more of it. Even the sound around them began to fade, replaced by a low hum from the machinery nearby. Emma looked up from her instruments and whispered, "The temperature's dropping." Spooner checked his readings. The numbers didn't make sense. "We're seeing an electromagnetic field," he said slowly. "This metal, it's reacting to something." Rick's voice was soft but steady. "This could be what we've been looking for." Hours passed as the team worked tirelessly to expose the full structure. Cameras captured every second, every movement, every glance. Finally, the box was fully visible, 4 feet long, 2 feet wide, its surface covered in mysterious carvings. The symbols were unlike anything Rick had ever seen before. Some resembled crosses, others arrows, and a few seemed to form an unfamiliar alphabet. Rick stood there, staring down at it. He didn't speak for a long time. Then, quietly, he said, "Tomorrow morning, we'll raise it." That night, the camp was silent. The team gathered around the fire, but no one said much. Even the crackling flames seemed subdued. The waves crashing on the shore felt distant, muffled.
Rick sat apart from the others, holding an old leather diary, his father's. The pages were yellowed, the ink faded, but to Rick, every word was alive. His father had written about Oak Island decades ago. He had believed there was something here, something far greater than treasure. Rick ran his hand across the cover and whispered, "You were right, Dad. You always said this island hides the truth." The next morning arrived, cold and gray. The sky was heavy with clouds, and the wind carried a strange chill. The crew gathered around the pit.
The crane was prepared. Cameras rolled. The entire world would soon see what was buried beneath Oak Island. Rick gave a single nod. "Let's lift it." The crane's hook tightened around the metal box. The sound of creaking chains filled the air. Slowly, the object began to rise from the earth. The mud fell away in clumps, revealing more of the strange symbols. The moment the box cleared the surface, the wind seemed to stop. Birds that had been circling above vanished into the distance. The box was placed gently on the ground. No one moved. Rick stepped forward, his boots sinking slightly into the damp soil. He reached out and touched the box. It was cold, colder than the air around it. He looked at Dr. Spooner, who gave a silent nod. Emma whispered, "Sir, the readings are still unstable. Whatever's inside, it's giving off energy." Rick put on his gloves, bent down, and brushed away the remaining dirt. His voice was almost a whisper. "This is it." The latch was old but still intact. With a careful motion, Rick inserted a small metal rod and lifted it. A faint click echoed. Then slowly, the lid began to shift. The moment the seal broke, a rush of cold air escaped like a breath from the past. Inside the box was not gold or jewels, but a black stone tablet. It was perfectly smooth, yet carved with the same mysterious symbols seen on the lid. As the light hit its surface, the engravings began to glow faintly, as if responding to the presence of light itself. Dr. Spooner leaned closer. "I've never seen anything like this," he said softly. Emma's eyes widened. "It's reacting. It's emitting energy, but not magnetic. It's something else." Rick crouched beside the box, staring at the tablet. He said, "This isn't treasure. It's a message." The tablet was lifted carefully and placed on a white cloth. As it was cleaned, more markings became visible, circular patterns, arrows, and one large cross-like symbol in the center. Spooner's voice was filled with awe. "Some of these symbols match the Templar manuscripts. Others look like Phoenician. This is centuries old, maybe more." Rick's eyes glistened. "Could this be proof of what we've been chasing all this time?" Spooner nodded slowly. "If this is real, Rick, then it's not just Oak Island's mystery that changes. It's history itself." Rick remained silent. He ran his fingers over the central symbol. A circle surrounding a cross. It felt strangely familiar. Slowly, he reached into his jacket and pulled out his father's diary again. He flipped through the fragile pages until he stopped on one, a page with a hand-drawn sketch. It was the same symbol, the same circle, the same cross. Rick froze. His breathing quickened. "The symbol," he said quietly. "My father called it the seal of truth. He said it was real." His hands trembled. He knew. Tears welled in his eyes as the memories flooded back. Late nights with his father, stories about Oak Island, the legends, the maps. All of it, every word, had led to this moment. Dr. Spooner placed a hand on Rick's shoulder. "Rick," he said gently, "maybe this is the moment you've been working toward your entire life." Rick nodded slowly, unable to speak. The weight of it all pressed down on him. Years of searching, hope, loss, and belief. Now, as he looked at the glowing tablet, he felt like he was standing at the edge of something far greater than he could understand. As the team continued studying the tablet,
Emma adjusted the scanner to reveal faint inscriptions near the bottom. Slowly, letters began to appear. Spooner read them aloud. Illuminar, Praeterger, Veritas. He looked up. It's Latin. It means, light the earth, protect the truth. Rick repeated the words softly. Protect the truth. The air inside the tent grew heavy again. Everyone was silent, staring at the black stone that seemed to hold 1,000 secrets. Emma turned to Rick. Sir, should we move it? Rick shook his head. No, not yet. Let's understand it first. As night fell, the crew worked under soft light. Outside, the wind picked up, howling against the tents. The tablet glowed faintly under the lamps, its symbols almost alive. Spooner leaned over the readings and said, There's another inscription here, faint, near the center. Rick bent closer. With careful hands, he brushed away the dust. Slowly, letters began to appear. Emma whispered, It says, She shall rise again. No one spoke. The words echoed in the silence. Rick looked at her, his voice low. What does that mean? Spooner studied the markings. It could be a prophecy, he said slowly, or a warning. Rick's face turned pale. He remembered something. A line from his father's diary. He flipped to the last few pages, his fingers trembling.
There it was. She will return when the truth is found. He held up the diary beside the tablet. The words matched, almost exactly. His voice cracked as he said, He knew this was here. Spooner looked up at him. Rick, if this phrase is real, if it's connected to the Templars, it could mean an awakening, or a return. Rick stared at the stone. That means the mystery isn't over. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance. The tent flaps rustled violently as the wind howled louder. Emma whispered, Sir, the energy levels are rising again. The sensors flickered, the lights dimmed. Rick stood there, eyes locked on the tablet. If this prophecy is true, he said quietly, have we awakened something that should have stayed buried? Spooner's voice was grave. Rick, when history is awakened, it doesn't always respond. Sometimes it takes revenge. The lights flickered once more, and the scene faded into darkness. The storm outside grew stronger, and the tent shook under the weight of the wind. Rick, Emma, and Dr. Spooner stood silently around the black tablet. The glowing letters seemed alive now, flickering faintly in rhythm with the thunder. Every few seconds, lightning flashed through the tent walls, illuminating their faces, pale, tense, filled with awe and fear. Rick took a slow step back. His voice was barely audible. We've opened something that's been sealed for centuries. Spooner looked up at him. Rick, if this phrase is real, if it's connected to the Templars, it could mean an awakening, or a return. Rick stared at the stone. That means the mystery isn't over. Spooner pointed at the screen. Some of these markings resemble symbols found in medieval Templar churches, he said, but others don't match anything known. Emma zoomed in on one symbol, a circle with a line crossing through it. This one, she said softly, it appears in Phoenician inscriptions. It meant return or rebirth. Rick frowned. Rebirth. Spooner looked up. If the Templars created this, it might refer to something being restored or revived. Rick didn't reply. His thoughts went back to his father again, to the nights when his father would read from his notes, talking about Oak Island as if it were alive. The island remembers, he used to say, and one day it will reveal the truth. Now that truth seemed closer than ever, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like a warning.
By midday, news of the discovery had spread beyond Oak Island. The production team had shared a single image with the press, the black tablet, glowing faintly under the tent light, with Rick standing beside it, his face solemn. Within hours, it was everywhere. Television networks replayed the footage. Headlines flashed across the world. Templar artifact discovered on Oak Island. Rick Lagina breaks down after finding ancient tablet. Lost prophecy unearthed. What does it mean? Social media exploded. Hashtags like Oak Island Mystery and Rick Lagina Discovery trended worldwide. People shared theories, videos, and analysis. Some said the tablet was proof of the Knights Templars hiding sacred knowledge. Others believed it was connected to the Holy Grail or a lost civilization. Rick sat quietly in the tent, watching the storm of news unfold on a small monitor. Emma and Spooner were busy studying the scans, but Rick's mind was elsewhere. He couldn't stop thinking about the phrase, "She shall rise again." He whispered the words under his breath. What does it mean? Spooner overheard him and said softly, "It could be anything. A symbol of faith, a message about truth, or something darker." Rick nodded slowly. Or someone. The following days were a blur. Scientists arrived from different universities. Historians requested access to the site. The media camped outside the island's gates. Everyone wanted a piece of the mystery. Rick tried to stay focused, but inside, he felt
uneasy. The tablet's energy hadn't faded. At night, the instruments still showed faint pulses of electromagnetic activity like a slow heartbeat. One evening, as the sun set over the island, Rick sat alone beside the tent. The waves crashed softly in the distance. He opened his father's diary again, turning to the last page. In faded ink, his father had written a short note. "The island will test those who seek its truth. Only those who understand its message will see the light." Rick closed the diary and looked toward the excavation site. "I understand now," he whispered. "It was never about treasure." That night, a meeting was held inside the main tent. Dr. Spooner, Emma, and several experts joined Rick to discuss the tablet's meaning. A linguist from a nearby university had managed to decode a few more symbols. He pointed at a projected image of the tablet. "These outer markings form a pattern. It's like a compass, north, east, southwest. But if you connect them, they point to a location just off the island's southern coast." Emma leaned forward. "Are you saying there might be another chamber?" The linguist nodded. "Possibly. Or another part of the message." Rick felt his heart skip. "Then we dig there," he said firmly. The next morning, work began at the new site. The southern coast of Oak Island was rocky and covered with thick roots and sand. As the team drilled into the earth, strange readings appeared again. Metallic signals, hollow chambers, irregular energy spikes. Rick's instincts told him they were close to something important. Hours turned into days. The digging continued, and the deeper they went, the stronger the signals became. Then, on the third day, the drill hit something hard. A deep, hollow thud echoed from below. Emma checked the sonar screen. "There's a large cavity down there," she said, "and something inside it." Rick looked at her. "Let's open it." The excavators began removing soil carefully. Soon, a wooden surface appeared, ancient, darkened by time. When it was cleared, it revealed what looked like a massive door, sealed shut with stone and clay. Dr. Spooner examined it closely. "This construction style is old, medieval, maybe even older." Rick ran his hand over the wood. "The Templars," he murmured.
Emma adjusted the sensors. "Sir, there's movement inside."
Not mechanical, maybe air pressure. Spooner looked uneasy. If it's sealed, breaking it might be dangerous. Rick hesitated for a moment, then nodded. We've come too far to stop. The team carefully inserted a metal probe through a small gap. A rush of stale air hissed out, carrying a faint metallic smell. Inside, it was hollow. The wooden barrier was removed piece by piece until the opening was wide enough to see. The cameras moved closer, capturing the moment. Inside the chamber was darkness. The flashlight beams cut through the dust, revealing a stone pedestal in the center, and on that pedestal, another tablet. Smaller, but carved with the same symbols. Rick stepped inside, his footsteps echoing softly. He approached the pedestal and placed his hand on the second tablet. It was warm. He frowned and whispered, "It's warm, like it's alive." Spooner joined him, examining the markings. It's identical to the first one, except here, the central cross is inverted. Rick's breath caught. Inverted? Emma shone her light across the stone. There's text here too. They brushed off the dust, and slowly, words appeared. Spooner read them aloud. She was bound beneath the earth. When light meets truth, she will awaken. The air inside the chamber grew thick. Rick looked around, uneasy. Awaken? What does that mean? Spooner shook his head. I don't know, but this is no ordinary discovery. It's part of something much larger. Outside, the sky darkened again. The wind began to howl, and the ocean waves crashed harder against the rocks. As they carried the second tablet out of the chamber, the ground beneath them trembled slightly, just enough to make everyone stop. Rick looked back at the dark opening they had uncovered. Did you feel that? Emma nodded slowly. It's like the island's breathing. That night the team placed both tablets side by side under the lights. The symbols on each tablet began to glow softly, not randomly, but in sync, pulsing together. The words on the second tablet shimmered faintly, merging with the first. Emma gasped. It's forming a pattern. Look! On the monitors, the glowing lines connected, forming a larger symbol, a circle surrounding two crosses. Spooner stepped closer. It's a seal of awakening. Rick's voice trembled.
My father called it that. He said the island holds something that guards the truth, and when the seal is broken... He trailed off. The lights flickered again. The hum of the generators faltered. Then, silence. For a long moment, no one spoke. The air was cold, dense, alive with static. Rick stared at the tablets, his reflection shimmering on their surfaces. In that moment, he wasn't just an explorer. He was a witness to something ancient awakening beneath the ground. Tears welled in his eyes. He whispered, Dad, we found it, but maybe we were never meant to. Dr. Spooner's voice was quiet. The truth has a price, Rick. And now, the island has remembered. Outside, lightning split the sky. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every second as the wind roared over Oak Island once again, a haunting echo of history returning to life. The scene faded into darkness, and the faint words on the tablets glowed one last time. She shall rise again. The storm rolled away before dawn, leaving the island wrapped in an eerie calm. Mist drifted above the flooded dig site, and the scent of salt and wet soil filled the air. Rick stood alone outside the tent, watching the gray sky brighten over the Atlantic. The silence pressed against him. Even the gulls were gone. Behind him, inside the tent, the two tablets still pulsed faintly under the soft white lights. Every few seconds the glow rippled across their surfaces, perfectly synchronized. Emma hadn't slept in almost a day. She kept recording data, whispering to herself as the readings fluctuated. Spooner sat quietly beside the monitor, his hand resting against his chin. None of them could explain what they were seeing. Rick finally turned and stepped inside. Anything new? He asked, his voice rough from the cold air. Emma shook her head.
It hasn't stopped. The energy pattern, it's constant, steady, like a signal. Spooner looked up. If these tablets are